forget the orange. You could have gotten a sandwich. You're still eating that orange?
I found an apple too.
I was gonna say.
Okay, now we're on. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this February 5th, 2020 meeting of the Auburn School Committee to order. Please join me in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's start with introductions. Let's go all the way down here to my left.
Anna LeBlanc, student representative.
Emma Sampson, student representative.
Adam Hansen, business manager.
Michelle McClellan, assistant superintendent.
Brian Carrier, mayor's representative.
And Poisson, Ward 5.
Faith Fontaine at large. Cronin, superintendent.
Karen Matthew, Ward 3.
Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Brian Belknap, Ward 4.
David Simpson at large.
Rose Walker, Ward 1.
Okay, first on the agenda for this evening is communications. Late last night, all of us on the school committee received an email communicating to us an incident that occurred in one of our schools, wanting to make sure that we were aware of it. And to that communication, I'm going to defer to the superintendent so that she is able to speak to that communication.
Appreciate the communication, and I do want to address that the school department was well aware of the situation. The special ed director, myself, the principal, and several of the staff are talking about it. I do want to apologize that parents felt there was a lack of communication around what happened last week. And so the principal and myself, we've debriefed about that. When is it appropriate? What do we need to, how do we say it with still respecting student rights and so forth like that. So that's definitely something, an area of improvement. I did want to clarify that notifications to parents often happen when there's a yellow lockdown or a red lockdown. In these situations, there wouldn't be like a general robocall out for that. We would talk about how to best communicate it so that we're following and making sure we're following our policies around those notifications. But I do know there were parents upset about that, and Ms. Klein, Cheryl Klein, the principal, has been fielding phone calls, and definitely working on that. I want you to know that we take it very seriously, the safety of the students in the classroom, the staff in the classroom, as well as the individual student. And there's been plans in place. They've been reworked again today. And so I want to assure you we take safety extremely serious. We're always looking at those plans, making the best programming plans for all students. So I did want to tell people that incident last week, everyone was involved in the discussion around that, and then the incident yesterday, discussion again. And I know the principal met with a group of students today to discuss, to make them validate their feelings about what was going on and to make adjustments to programming. So I just wanted to assure people I do welcome if parents want to phone call me and have further discussion, absolutely open to that. So I just want to make sure everyone knew we were addressing.
Could you comment on what the remedy is for the communications to parents when these incidents happen in schools?
So some things is like this, there's a fine line around the right to know and the rights of the student involved and the other students. So speaking to one parent today, obviously if their student had a direct impact on that, there probably should have been a phone call talking to the parent and saying, this is what occurred. And then how do we put out something that is in general sense so that we're protecting the rights of students. And it is hard to understand that, but the other student has rights as well. So we did talk about how to best do that, and it's probably going to be phone calls oftentimes rather than a robocall, unless it, so I think it was debriefing and making sure the principal has the support to talk about how to best communicate. So it's an individual basis, and we talk those things through.
The reason I ask, and
Sure.
if you could say, my daughter goes to AMS.
Yes.
not every day, but as frequently, I get an email.
Right.
We're in yellow lockdown. And
Yes.
why can't that be duplicated at all the Auburn schools? I'm sure there's a reason.
Every time there's a yellow lockdown at any of the schools, there's a robocall. This did not did not lead to a yellow lockdown.
What is considered a yellow lockdown? Or?
When the principal makes the announcement, we are going into yellow lockdown. It might be if there's a medical condition that's causing an ambulance to get through, if there's a disturbance in a way that they feel for the privacy, they would hold them. So sometimes they decide they're going to announce to hold the kids, or they're going to say yellow lockdown, or they're going to say red lockdown. Depends on what the event is that's occurring.
But is there a policy that says this is what a yellow lockdown is, this is what a red, like that we can kind of go?
It's not black and white, but if the principal or another staff member feels that there's a safety risk that they need to be in yellow lockdown, which means you're in your room with your door shut and there's no movement in the halls, then that's what they do. It's to hold that there's something going on in the halls. It's to hold all students inside the hall, in the classroom. Okay? So if we do a room clear, so if a teacher does a room clear, we don't do robocalls for room clears in any of the schools.
And that's what in this situation occurred, a room clear.
It's hard for me to discuss, yeah.
Because of FERPA laws, we have to
Right, we have to be careful about what we're saying.
careful about how we're communicating
Right.
this right now. We're
But
not-
I can tell you, the teachers have done their best to respond in the way they should and be professional about that. The principal is working in collaboration with the special ed director, myself, to do all we can to address the safety concerns for the student, the teachers, and the student also. There's been a lot of time. I want to thank staff. They were at the school last night till 8 o'clock last night, continuing to work through this. So I appreciate everyone's effort to do what's best.
Everyone else set on that communication? Dave?
I don't know. And I respect the need for confidentiality, so I don't want to talk about this specific incident, but I guess knowing what I know, what
Right.
does rise to the level of parents being notified via
Right.
yellow?
Right.
Because it seemed like it was, again,
Right.
in the spirit of FERPA and confidentiality to the kids, the family, everyone. If this, not this, then what?
Right. And Dave, we've talked, the principal and I spoke about it. We can't go back and undo what's been
Oh, no,
done.
it's-
And absolutely, I apologize. I think the principal.
There was a judgment call that maybe
There
in
was a-
hindsight, Monday morning, put
Correct.
it back.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're exactly right. I think, she's feeling badly, how do you get to 20 parent, so I agree. There's work to be done.
All right, moving on. Any other communications? None noted. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. So based on our executive session, before asking for the approval of tonight's consent agenda and the minutes of the January 22nd meeting, could I entertain a motion to add the following agenda item? This is based on our conversation again during executive session. For the authorization of the superintendent to continue good faith contract negotiations to purchase net energy billing credits through the CES consortium, subject to the final approval of the form of contracts by us as the school committee. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Faith, Pam second. Any conversation? Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? None noted. Motion passes 8-0. Okay, so the agenda has been amended, and that part will come down, the actual vote. So right now, we've just voted to add it to the agenda. We will then vote to allow that to happen. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. Moving on, public participation. Public participation this evening, we're going to open it up to public participation. Members of the community may comment on any general topic related to the school system. Comments related to specific agenda items should be held until the appropriate time. Community members are asked to abide by our system-wide code of conduct, which is outlined on our agenda. So at this time, would anyone like to address the school committee? Seeing no one jump out of their chairs? No? Okay. Absolutely.
No, come,
Come right on up
yeah,
here.
right up here.
Have a seat right at the table.
You can get to sit.
Yeah, have a seat. Your mic is on, so we ask that you give us your name and where you live
Address.
and your address.
My full address?
That's your street address.
Okay.
And it's in Auburn.
Right.
Okay.
Danville Road, do I have to say the number, or?
Just your name. Start with your name.
Okay, Bethany.
Becky.
Bethany.
Oh, Bethany, sorry.
Last name?
Utara. Want me to spell it?
No.
Cuetara.
Thank you for that spelling.
Okay, it's a tough one.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks. Just wanted to follow up on some of what you were just discussing. Is that okay to do now? In addition to the need for communication in the school, I wanted to ask about also the transportation and the buses, and if there's further things being done for that. I know I don't know about the confidentiality of what I'm allowed to
Right.
say, but my son is in class with this child, and both of my kids are on the bus with this child, and I know the whole story, and I know everything.
So we have discussed transportation, and
Okay.
that has been handled.
Something's being done about
Yes,
that.
you
Okay.
can be assured we've handled that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then when can we expect an update on the other stuff as far as what to do
Communication,
about,
so-
yeah, like,
So you mean communication about the incident or communication plan?
right, you kind of indicated that maybe there should have been some communication in this incident, but
Yeah.
there wasn't, and you're working on trying to
To
come up with a better
remedy
plan
that.
for that?
I
or-
think right now, she's speaking one-on-one as people, as you've called, and people
Yep.
have spoken about it. So we can definitely discuss with the teacher, is there need to be further communication with that classroom?
Okay,
Because I know she discussed with the homeroom classroom, so we can discuss, obviously, with the teacher, what would be appropriate for next steps.
okay,
So I'll definitely follow up with that.
okay.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public participation this evening? Sure. Well, I'm glad I waited you out. Look at that.
You got to give wait time.
Sorry,
Got to
do I
give
not?
wait
Do
time.
My name is Mike Irish. I'm 80 Charterway in Auburn. The reason I'm here tonight is really to discuss the football program at the high school, middle school, and actually the rec level. I spoke with Jason Levesque a couple times about it because him and I went to school together, so I've known him for a while. And just in passing conversations, we discussed some of my concerns about it. One of the concerns is by the time they get to their freshman level, a lot of the kids that may have played through the middle school level where they've had to pay in order to play. Now you've got kids coming into the freshman level that have never played football before. You have other schools where 7th and 8th grade has been free for them. They haven't had to worry about paying money to get that football skills, the training, the coaching at that freshman level. We have some coaches in our system that once they get to the freshman level, expect that the kids already know what they need to be done. They know what needs to be done on the field, know how to do plays, know everything there is to know about football. Unfortunately, that's not happening in Auburn due to the fact that you have parents that can't afford to have their kids play Auburn rec football because it costs money for that. Other communities, it doesn't cost them that money to play. Jason, I know he says it's probably going to be a little sore subject with the school department about bringing the rec football program at the 7th and 8th grade level to the school department, but I think it will benefit the system a little bit due to the fact that now you can have those coaches actually go down and help those kids. There was a big beef a couple years ago with the Auburn rec and the school department in the middle school where they didn't want the Auburn rec to use the Falcons logo because it's not a school program. So they had to change their name to the Auburn rec. At that point, too, you had a lot of coaches, well, since it's not a school program, I don't want nothing to do with it. They backed away, they pushed it away from the system, and you saw a big decline of the youth football program here in Auburn at that point in time. Unfortunately, I think you saw it in last season's high school football. If anybody here that watched the football season last year, it probably wasn't the greatest. Unfortunately, I was the one who was stuck there having to record every single game for Dave. Yeah, so I recorded every game for Dave. Great guy, love the guy to death. What he's done as the football community, bringing them together as a family, introducing the team dinners where every Thursday night, as a team, they sit down as a family. That's been great. Unfortunately, when you're up there in the booth with the other coaches and stuff like that, the coaches are calling out, well, he's going to run this play next. Sure as enough, he runs that play next. I've had many discussions with a lot of parents over this last football season because my youngest son, being in 8th grade this year, this is last year at the middle school, he'll be going to the freshman season. He doesn't really want to play freshman because he sees what's been happening throughout the years through football. There's about 8 or 9 parents that I've talked to that basically said their kids are refusing to play football this next year because of the way the coaching went last year. You have kids that were seniors that have never played football before, they're instantly on the starting lines. That, for a lot of kids that have been playing from the 3rd grade, 2nd grade, all the way up to their junior year, sophomore year, then all of a sudden, you have this kid that's never played before, gets moved in there just because it's their senior year. It's not fair to those kids. It really isn't. You have kids that have never played before, or they used to play, but all of a sudden, they get moved in, and because their size or who they know or something like that, get put in a position that they can't play. And they're not being coached on what they need to do on how to run the plays, or even basic physical fitness coaching. The high schools opened the gym up for the kids to go work out in the summertime. From what I've been told from many of the kids, my son included, my son's a junior this year, he said there's hardly ever a coach or an adult supervision in that gym, in that weight room. So you have kids in that weight room that, for one, have probably never lifted weights in their life, haven't had direction on how to properly lift weights, are down there working out, lifting weights. 80% of them are using it for a social place to hang out, yes, on their phones half the time, but there's those there that want to work out, that want to get better, in whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever sport they are, they're using that weight room time to get better, but they're not getting the direction on what they need to do, or the supervision. All that's going to need to happen is one kid really get hurt down there, and then we'll all be here again discussing another issue that needs to be addressed. The same thing goes with the high school gym right now, which I've been told by a lot of parents that are on the basketball that there's particular parents that have keys to that gym so they can go in there and play basketball. So their kids can go in there and play basketball. That's just opening up liability for the school department to have the kids have access to that with or without supervision. And then one family friend of ours, their son asked if he could get a key. Well, unfortunately, his mom's a teacher, so someone told him, well, your mom's a teacher, you have access to a gym. That's not the right attitude to have when another player is asking to have the same privilege that other kids have in that. But the big thing is just the football season this year. A lot of parents, I think you're going to see less numbers there due to the fact the season we had last year, and because of the separation of the rec and the high school, it's just going to continue to decline if something there is not really tried to merge to try to bring that system together for everybody. One thing I can say was nice last year is Gibson did work on getting us to have the buses for the middle school team, so the buses were available for the Auburn Rec. It was the first year that was ever there. It used to be the parents had to bring their kids to games out in Topsom, Oxford, so that was something a lot of parents didn't do the rec football because they don't have the transportation to get their kids to those events.
So it sounds
Yeah,
like this is
I've
a good
written stuff down.
conversation between you and the AD
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the
And the AD, I am
financial.
aware of the football request at Auburn Middle School. That's going to have to be a discussion at budget time because
Yep.
lacrosse is also.
Well,
So I think you're right, at budget time,
Yeah.
the school committee prior had done a plan to bring in soccer for 7th and 8th, so I think the school committee is going to have to discuss the sport lineup at the middle school. And your coach feedback, I know Scott Anier is here, the principal, so
Yeah.
he and I can talk about the feedback and next steps to
And I know a lot of that's done at the school level between
Right.
the athletic director, the principal, and everybody else is involved on actually who's hired for those positions. But when you get a lot of parents and
And I always say to parents, don't
Yep.
hesitate to send emails, because
Yep.
even to me, don't assume that we know everything. So it doesn't hurt to, get a parent group from the
Yep.
8th grade to just say, here are some of the things we're hoping will improve. Here, I think that's important.
it is, and unfortunately, a lot of times emails though, as everybody here is involved with emails on a daily basis. You get emails, and it depends on what mood you're in when you read it, it comes through a different way than, so it always needs to come
But
back.
I can tell them, I've asked you to send something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think you've started the conversation, so thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just get clarification on the pay to play? So in high school, is there an additional fee to play
No,
football?
there
or
is
what
not.
did-
So at the
No,
Auburn
the
rec
rec-
level,
The
so
rec.
7th and
Okay,
8th.
sorry, I just want,
Yep.
I don't have a son yet at the high school,
Yeah.
so I wanted to know, okay, thank you.
Yeah, but so at
He's
the Auburn
talking
rec,
about the rec.
like soccer, they have to pay through, usually it's LASA that they do the soccer program.
Okay, so,
Um,
okay.
Yeah.
And like they get the rec basketball, which is outside the school, but that's just a different league itself, but it's just, football is very small, and it's gotten small. I remember a few years ago when it was real large, like Steve Milks, when his son was playing with my oldest son. They're a year apart, but Steve was coaching. It was a great program. The current senior class right now and the current junior class, all the way up through to the 8th grade, were undefeated. As soon as they hit the high school level, it went downhill. So a lot of people can
It's
say,
good
as well as-
stuff for us to look at.
yeah, so it's
Thank
just.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else for public participation this evening? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close public participation. Moving on, student information.
All right, so I just came from the boys ice hockey game, and we just won 3-2 over South Portland, so that's really good. Big turnout. Girls hockey also has their first playoff game tonight against Mount Ararat at 8:40. I have a bunch of girls on that team, so I'm excited for that. Also, ELHS Drama Club is presenting Death by Dessert this weekend, and I think that's going to be really exciting to go to, so I'm excited for that.
Amelia Laveau, a sixth grader at Walton, is getting a piece of her artwork displayed at the Portland Museum of Art to represent Auburn School Department for Youth Art Month, which is really good. Unified basketball started these past couple weeks, and right now our record is 2-2. We had a tough loss against Lewiston today, but we'll bounce back. Tonight, it's the girls' basketball senior night, and playoff basketball starts next week.
Thank you, ladies. In full disclosure, our student reps are going to leave us tonight because they have to go do what students have to do, and they have quite a heavy homework load this evening. So they have asked to be excused after their information report. So I hope there's no objection to them leaving
No.
tonight. So thank you very much, ladies.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the superintendent report. This is the piece that's not on your agenda that we voted on earlier to enter into CES consortium contracts. So can I entertain a motion? And I'm going to repeat the entire motion just so we're understanding, to authorize the superintendent to continue good faith contract negotiations to purchase net energy billing credits through the CES consortium, subject to final approval of the form of contracts by the school committee. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So I have a motion from
Second.
Pam Hart, second from Brian Belknap. Any public discussion, bring it to public discussion. Seeing none, bring it back to the committee for any continued discussion or debate on it. Seeing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Okay. Now,
We'll keep you up to date on that as contract negotiations go on.
okay, sounds good. Superintendent's report, planning and development, budget information and goals. Superintendent's going to provide us information about parts of the school budget. So following the budget information, school committee members will have an opportunity to share their budget priorities and to set goals for budget development. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Superintendent Grondin.
So I'm going to do just an introduction. Some of you have done budgets, some of you haven't. So I just want to give a general overview of budget development. And then after that, we're going to do an activity. That'll be fun. Get us up in. So our budget, you're going to be hearing the expenditure lines first, and that's really around cost centers. So I want to pass out presentation. So you can take notes.
Thank God I brought my glasses.
I know.
It will be bigger up there.
I still, even that's.
I know. So our expenditures, which obviously is everything that we need to have a high-quality education, is put into 11 cost centers. So this is all outlined by the Maine DOE. It talks about what needs to go in each cost center, and that's what Adam works very hard right now as we do budget meetings, is everything in the right account, okay? And it's very important because we report out our expenditure spending in each of these cost centers at the end of the fiscal year. So cost center 1 is our regular instruction. So things you're going to see when I put out cost number 1 is all the regular instruction programs that are necessary. So that's where all our regular ed classroom teachers you'll find there. All our alternative education programming, our English language learners programs, and our gifted and talented. That's all captured in cost center 1. So you can imagine that's our largest cost center. Cost center 2 is all special education programs. So that's where the special education teachers are and our tuition and so forth. So you'll see that in cost center 2. Cost center 3, Auburn does not have because Lewiston is the fiscal agent around the Lewiston Regional Technical Center. So our dollars go directly to that program. So it doesn't funnel to us and then they bill us for our participation. Our funds go to that. The cost center 4 is other instruction. That's where you see all the co-curricular and extracurricular programs. So that's all your athletics, drama, stipends. That's what you find in the co-curricular and extracurricular cost center. Cost center 5 is student, staff, and support. That's guidance services, health services, instructional technology, improvement of instruction, so professional development, instructional staff training, library services, and student assessment. We also put the assistant superintendent position here because she does a lot with homeless, truancy, professional development. So a lot of her job responsibility is to support student and staff. So that position goes there. Special ed director position goes in cost center 2. So when we look at our team and where they fall in their responsibility, that's where you'll see them in the cost center. Cost center 6 is system administration. The big pieces here is the superintendent, the business manager, the business office, and the administrative support to run central office. But not all positions are in system administration. Our director of technology is in cost center 5 with instructional technology. So depending on where their most of their job function is which cost center people go in. The cost center 7 is school administration. That's your building administrators are in that, and any accounts tied to them are also there.
So the principal's account?
Principal's account. This is all principal focus.
Okay.
Cost center 8 is transportation. Cost center 9 is operations and maintenance. That's where you're going to find everything having to do with electricity, plumbing, fields, painting, custodian services. So everything to maintain our buildings is in cost center 9. Cost center 10 is our debt service. So as we pay off your capital improvement dollars, if that would be, I don't know if that's there, no, because that's local only, but anything with a big project, like when we have the new EL, there'll be debt service in there. I believe, who's still in there? Because there's debt service.
Right now, basically, all you'll see in there is the Park Avenue
that's
payments
what I
that are
thought,
still
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Most of the capital improvement money that we borrow is under operations and maintenance, and that's per the DOE coding regulations. That's where they want to see maintenance costs, even if it's debt.
Exactly, right. And then cost center 11 is all other, which is child nutrition and crossing guards. We do not, at this time, have any expenditures for child nutrition. That is an enterprise fund, so they fund what they need through the programming. We're going to probably discuss whether there needs to be dollars placed in that for the first time, but we can have more of a conversation about that later. I just want you to know we don't have anything in our general fund for child nutrition, and so what you mostly see there, all that you see there is crossing guards. So all the crossing guards costs is in Cost Center 11. So that's just kind of giving you, I deliver the budget in these cost centers so that you, because you vote on it at the end, you vote on the articles. The articles are tied to the cost centers so that you're not confused later, well, what are we voting on? You know right off what you're voting on all along. I gave you a history, a little bit of history, just so you have some background of our spending, expenditures, because remember, this is a proposed budget and then there's actual. And you'll see when we give you each cost center, you'll see what we budgeted, what the actual is, and then a history. So here's the 3-year history. So you can just see, as I said earlier, regular instruction is our largest expenditure line at 18 million this year, approximately, and then special ed at 10 million. Other instruction, that's co-curricular at 834,000. Student staff support, 4 million, close to 5 million. System administration, close to 1 million at 965,000. School administration, 1.5 million. Transportation at 1.8 million. Facilities and maintenance, 5.1 million. Debt service, 742,000. All other, 39,000 for the crossing guards. So our budget, this is our cost centers. Adult ed is not in a cost center. So you will see that as we move through, seeing the total amount. We will include adult ed, but this amount at 44.9 million does not include adult ed. And adult ed is around $360,000 or so. So you add that, and that would get you to where our total budget, which was around 45 million.
Can I ask, so
Sure.
in school year 2018 and 2019, those total budgets at the bottom also do not include
Correct.
adult ed?
Yes, we
Okay.
took adult ed out of the bottom
Completely
numbers.
out. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So that's kind of giving you a view of expenditures, and that's going to be most of our work is what are you spending the dollars on? What have you budgeted for? Why have you budgeted for it? What's in it? And so I'm going to move to revenues. Any questions on expenditures?
Yeah, I was just doing,
This is kind of from we're way up here right now. Yes.
Okay,
Rose.
I was just looking at the
Sure.
quick budget dollars over last year versus this year, and if I'm correct, is it a 3.6% increase from last year to this year? For
Yeah, so-
increase in budget?
And remember, this is current year. This is not next year's budget.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
but
Yes,
what I
you're
mean,
right,
the
correct.
fiscal last year versus the one that we are in currently?
Yes.
Yes, 3.6?
Correct.
3.8.
Oh,
Close.
yeah, no.
He's got the he's probably
Well,
got
I
the.
have it in front of me, so I didn't have to.
Yeah, he didn't have to. But, yes. And you'll see more of that
Okay.
increase, yes. Our revenue sources, so what pays for it? State subsidy, which is the ED 279, which I'll talk more about in a moment. Local tax dollars. Fund balance. Fund balance is the undesignated fund. So at the end of the year, there'll be some funds that have not been expended, and that moves into our fund balance. And so I'm going to discuss that a little bit. And then there's other revenue sources like state agency client, special ed SOS, tuition, Maine care reimbursement, Franklin tuition, rental properties, child care, miscellaneous. So there are things that the school department brings in for revenue that also we put toward our expenditures. Okay? So the EDU 279 determines what is going to be the state share and the local share to the Auburn School Department. And it's a funding formula that was designed to make sure that there was a minimum given to each school department based on certain factors. So it's to say what is the basic model that everyone, every school department should have, and then it determines off of that what is going to be the local share of that cost. So to determine the essential programming, you take the total that they're going to calculate us, so they're going to calculate the Auburn School Department in this in this formula, which you're going to see. And then what they do is they subtract the required local share, which is determined by the city's evaluation times the state's mill rate. So we get that number, and then they take that off of the total, and that's what equals the state. So first they determine how much for a basic education that they're going to pay for, then they determine what the local share is, and then it determines our state share. Many local units raise above and beyond the basic education, including the Auburn School Department. Okay. These are the things that go into this formula. We could spend 8 hours on this formula. But what it's taking is our demographics, calculating things to come up with a number. And so these are the major factors. Is it looks at our pupil counts. It looks at, what it does is it puts together what is our cost for our positions. So it looks at teacher position, ed tech position, guidance position, library positions based on a formula. Then it looks at system administration. It looks at substitute. It looks at benefit costs. So it takes in all that and our pupil count, and it comes up with a per pupil rate. So every district has a different per pupil rate based on a lot of factors, which we'll talk about at another time. Then what it does is it does weighted amounts. So there's certain weighted amounts for ELL, for pre-K, for economically disadvantaged. So there's weighted factors that go into our totals. Then it does targeted amounts for pre-K, student assessment, technology resources. So every district gets these calculations based on really how many pupils fit into these categories. So how many Auburn students are ELL, how many students are economic disadvantaged, how many pre-K students. So it takes into those factors. And then there's other adjustments that are made for small schools, adult education, and equivalent instruction. There's also special education, and that formula, we get some numbers and how that's calculated, so there's special education. There's transportation, so if we bought a bus, we're going to see reimbursement for a bus. That's also in there. Gifted and talented dollars. So it comes in, and that all figures out to what is a basic education Auburn based on these factors. Then, as I said to you, how do they determine that local share? The valuation by the town, and then they multiply that by the mill rate. And then the other things here is if we were a SAD, if we had a lot of towns, they determine the weight from each town. We're one town, so it's one weight. And the mill rate expectation is part of the calculation. Our ED 279s are released right now if you want to look at it, but it's in draft, and so we're going to go more over that in the joint meeting rather than I say it and then I say it and then I say it. So the city manager and I have talked about the ED 279. Karen and I know we've got to talk about what we're going to do at the joint meeting. But what we're seeing already is we have a decrease in enrollment and an increase in city evaluation, which is not, those aren't good things at the same time.
Double whammy.
Double whammy. So because the lower the evaluation, the more state aid, right? The more enrollment, the more state aid. So we've had a decrease in enrollment. We had a decrease in economically disadvantaged, so that weighted, the weights on our economically disadvantaged are down. So we're going to go through why there's been a change. We had about a
63.
I was going to say 360. I was on the mark there. $363,000 increase in state aid. That's considerably lower than we've seen in the past couple of years. Last year was 1.5 million in subsidy increase. This year it's 360,000 increase. So it is going to be a lot of discussion around where do we come in that we believe is best for the school department and best for the community in affording it. So there's more conversation, but I just want to give you some heads up that there's going to be work ahead. The state subsidy you can see here is our trend. So you can see we had for state subsidy 22.2 million in FY18, then we had 24.3 million in FY19, and then in FY20, we had 25.9 million. So you can, we're anticipating not as large of an increase in the state subsidy. The local dollars, in FY19, we had 17.9, FY19, 17.9, and FY20, 17.8. So we have stayed pretty steady. And the former school committee, we honored that you had considerable amount of state aid, so we were able to hold the line with local tax dollars. This year, we're going to need tax dollars to bridge the gap. How much, we won't know until we know our final expenditures, and we are not ready to release our expenditure totals yet because we're still working on the budget. Okay? Fund balance. Now, fund balance has been used to fill the gap between what the state subsidy is, what the local dollars, tax dollars are, to fill the gap. So this has always been a nervous area because you have to have fund balance to use fund balance, right? So in FY18, we used 906,000. FY19, we brought it down because of that state subsidy increase. We were able to bring down the use of fund balance, but last year we brought it back up again. We added several important positions last year in the budget. We had to move some grant positions in. So we did raise our fund balance there. So that'll be more discussion later, is how much fund balance do we have? How much can we use to fill in any type of gap? Okay, so I'm kind of giving you a history background just so you have a feel of where we have been. Our other revenue sources, this is one that, we do our best projections on this. For example, one big change, Franklin tuition. Lewiston had been buying slots at Franklin Alternative, and they're no longer buying slots. However, they are paying for their slots. That makes sense. So instead of saying, we will pay for 18, but we only put 16 in, they didn't want that risk of saying, I'm going to pay for something I may not use. So we respected that, but they are paying for tuition for students who are placed there. And I think right now, 12 or 13, I think they have.
I think 13 was the last number I saw.
So they have 13 right now. And Russ, our students come first on the need there, and then he works a lot with Lewiston on placing students at Franklin. But that's something we always look at is, are these revenues still coming in where they need to come in? So you can see that FY18, we were at 575,000, then we went to 582,000, and for this budget, we put 617,000. And you'll see those lines and what we're projecting for next year. So how does the superintendent's proposed budget come together? So this is kind of highlighting that. Our business office manager does a great job, Jackie, and what she does is she takes all the employees, she has to look at the contracts, what is the teacher contract, what's the ed tech secretary contract, administrator contract, custodial contract, food service contract, and making sure all those are in line, and that's where she needs to start with all personnel. Then the business manager reviews contracted increases to comparable positions and consults with the city finance director for input to increase for non-union employees. So for example, we have administrative assistants at central office. We often look at what are those contracts for ed tech secretaries. We look at administrator contracts for other administrations that are not in union. We look at, for non-union, we look at health benefits. So if we're going to decrease health benefits for non-union to align with other contracts, we look at what do we need to do for increase to help so they're not taking less home. If that makes sense. So right now, for non-union, we're looking at a 2% increase for those employees. The insurance increase is determined by reviewing past increases and our experience modification. And what experience modification? We call it experience mod. How healthy are employees? So we look at how are we doing as a group, health-wise. Are we doing our preventative? Like if we're due for a colonoscopy, are we going? Are we having, if we're a diabetic, are we going to do our preventative? looking at major surgery, anything like that, they put that all in. And of course, the healthier we all are, we can offset when people are having health concerns. And so we are hearing our experience mod slightly improved from last year, so that's good news. So what we have budgeted right now is a 10%. So, and I think, Peter, you also went with 10% from the city, maybe 9%? Okay. So what we did is put 10% in. I don't know if you're supposed to be publicly saying that. I'm sorry, Peter, if I put you on the spot. Okay. Maybe no one's listening out there and didn't hear. Okay. And what we did do is we will know by March 14th what, did I remember the number, right? March?
I'd have to look.
I don't know. It came out of the top of my head.
Might be March 20th.
20th?
I think March 20th.
Okay, so there'll be, we will hear from MEA Trust, what is the top? So if the top is 9, we'll bring it down to 9. If the top is 11, we're gonna have to decide whether we roll the dice and hope we come in at 10, okay? But we'll talk to you about that. They're usually very good with us to say, you know, you're in the ballpark of where you need to be. So until because that's what we did last year is we knew the range. So we're going with 10%. That can either go down, which you always hope for, especially in March when we're all kind of having anxiety about what do we do. We got numbers, we always hope for a lower number so we can adjust the budget. But I just want you to know there's a lot of thought that goes into picking the 10%. Principals, so all that's being done, and while that's being done, principals and directors have started in December working with their staffs about what are the needs, not your wants necessarily, because they know they've got to be also cost efficient and saying, okay, what do I want I got to have. They also hear, we don't want lists going out to parents that we're not buying pencils and paper and markers. We are. And we need to have that. So they've been doing that since December, and after Martin Luther King Day is their deadline to get it submitted. And then for the last 2 weeks, Adam and I have met with each person, and we go line by line with them. We talk about what they budgeted, what have they spent so far, if it's over budget or under budget. Why have you not spent those dollars? A lot of the times it's because we're mid-year. We will be spending those dollars. And we encourage them. We don't want you to think their freeze is coming. That money was put in the budget for you to use for your programming. You need to be meeting that. And so we go line by line and talk about that. We also, at those meetings, discuss capital improvement needs for the buildings, and we also talk about staffing needs. So where are some staffing needs, and I'll bring forward what staff have identified as needs. They know that it's going to be a tight budget this year, and so we're going to have to weigh out what we do there. Budget filters that are done are, as I said, I do not say, Sherwood Heights, you only get this amount of dollars. Edward Little, you only get this amount of dollars. I tell them, we want what you need. We want you to look at what you have in your buildings, what you need for materials, and build your budget from that. So they all come in at different points of what the needs are. We also talk about programs. Is there strong evidence of a return on investment? And we look at that. What are you using? How do you know it's working? What are programs we're using that we need to maybe provide more professional development with? So we're always talking about programs and the return on investment. We also, as you see, school committee budget priorities, which you're going to do tonight. So as Adam and I start thinking about where we're going to bring the budget in, where things are, we need to hear from you. Is our thinking your thinking? Are the things that we didn't think of that we want to make sure is on our radar? That's what you're going to do the next activity. And of course, we always consider Vision 2030 in our work around making sure we're headed to Vision 2030. So a lot of the programming, our professional development, things like that. So the principals use that as well. So that's kind of a big overview. And then after vacation, that's when we jump in to really looking at the
Line by line.
lines by line. Any questions on that?
Any questions at this point?
Okay.
Seeing none, all right.
Right. So what I've used for an activity that I think is good because it lets you have some individual time and then some group time. You all had a retreat with a lot of things that probably got you thinking about budget and what are the needs for our budget. And you, as you went campaigning and talking to folks about what the needs might be, this is an opportunity for you to weigh in. So I have sticky notes. I want you on each sticky note, so there has to be one idea on each sticky note. What are you hoping is a focus of the budget? What are priorities for you as an individual? Then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to that wall over there, and we're going to put the stickies, and we're going to try to group them by like things to see if there's some common themes, common goals that we're seeing from the group. Okay? So your first job is an individual idea on each sticky, and then when you're ready, you're meeting me over there at the wall. Okay, so stickies, packs. Yeah, you can give each person a pack. Good. Everybody have one? And do you need any pens? Any pens? I've got one if you need one. Okay, so you're working alone. An idea on each sticky note. What are you hoping are the priorities or a goal for an idea that you're hoping an outcome for the budget this year? Ready, you can come up to the wall and... Okay, so we're going to move over here to the wall. So Faith, you're going to put yours up in different places, and then people, you're going to see, does one of mine match what Faith's putting up? If it doesn't, put it in a different area. Yeah. They go together. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, you're good. So, yeah, so you look, so Faith has put small increase to taxpayers, okay? Class sizes, staff support, instructional coaches and ed techs, maintaining healthy fund balance. Staffing?
Especially K-1.
Yes, right there, yep.
K-1, social workers, guidance counselors.
So how about staff support? That's student and staff support, really. So we're talking about social worker guidance, additional, yeah?
Yeah, this one is, so,
Yes, books, yeah.
books to support those
Oh.
recommended to study.
And that was one of the things every elementary principal was asked during budget season. Do you have all your books you need? So you will see a lot of that. I'll read this to the public, the different groupings, so people out there know what we're doing. Support rows, yeah. Small classes up above. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Okay, because that kind of goes together. All right. You guys are good at this.
Chocolate's kind of heavy for me, but I'll take a candy cane.
Oh, I know what you're saying. See, yeah, I know what you're saying.
I looked at them, thought, maybe, and
I was in a pickle, because I knew it was just.
But Rose,
Good.
Rose walked down over dinner. Oh, yeah. I have a little bit of chicken left over if you want it.
More teachers, intervention center, yeah.
Day, overnight.
5 a.m.
Oh, limit
In the morning? Oh, really?
They'll decide that at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, now,
Oh, yeah, that is good.
won't they? Just fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 3 people have it. So that's okay. I don't want to get up at 3 a.m. to watch you.
I have no interest in
Oh, yeah.
Wet, though.
Okay, so let's look at the different, Pam, how are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, you're just writing yourself some notes? Okay. All right, so these are really good for us to take back and be thinking about. And some of the things that you have put, we have been thinking about, so that's excellent. So over here, this is kind of a separate one, reduce administrative level, I'm going to guess level? Too many. Okay. I don't know what this middle word is. Way too many? Reduce?
It's not my writing, but let me try. I read kindergarten.
I don't know what that word is.
Yeah, reduce the administrative line.
Oh, line, too many, okay. So we can talk about that as we get into the budget, more information about that. But that's one person. We have expand ELL to all elementary schools, and we will have a discussion on that because I'm already working with Melissa Hodgkins around that. We have limit consulting fees, so we'll go over what is in the budget for consulting fees so everybody has a real good understanding of that. And closer look at technology fees. You're definitely going to get that because that's in one of the cost centers. Pam, sorry, go ahead. Go for it, and I'll say, yeah. We have teacher salary on 2 of them. Are we at a point where teachers are close to market value? So just so you know, teacher contract will be up not next year, but the year after. So that will be definitely something that you all need to consider around their contract, which you'll be negotiating not next year, but the year after. We have, is PBL giving us a return on our investment? That's a question. So that is over here. So we will have to talk at budget time, what do you believe is PBL in the budget? So we'll have a discussion on what that means to you and what that, so we'll get clarification on that. Instructional coaches and ed techs, so talking about the need for, if there's, I think you said this, Faith, if there's a high class sizes, are we putting an ed tech in there? And so there'll be some discussion on that. More intervention teachers is here. Then over here, more teachers, less coaches, so I can put that probably near here. So we can talk about how many coaches are there and what's their role. And then you haven't seen class sizes yet, so we'll talk about where, if we were going to put teachers for class sizes, what would that look like? Allow smaller class sizes in K1, so that'll be good when we go over that. And that's regular instruction, so we'll have information for you when we do that one. Improve scores. So we'll have to talk about what is in the budget that we believe will help improve scores. Okay. Class sizes again, ratio of students to teachers, expand pre-K. So we can talk about, do we need to expand pre-K? So we'll look at our numbers in pre-K, is there a need, and where would the need be? Okay. Smaller class sizes, books for classroom libraries to support reading units of study. As Karen told me that early on, and she will see lots of books in there to make sure that's done, so yes. Everybody, this is all about taxes. Very little increase to tax impact, maintain healthy fund balance, keep local share consistent with FY18, F20 amounts, so no increase, I'm guessing there. Minimal taxpayer increases, small taxpayer, minimal, and needs to provide something. Okay, so, it's okay. Yeah, so I taught second grade, so I'm pretty, sometimes I can get them. But, so there is going to be the challenge if we want to do this, and then we want to do this, that's when we're going to, and I see those who've been on the board, yes, this is when we have a lot of dialogue about how do we do this and we do this. So that's good. This one is our programs like PBIS showing return on investment, and so that's a good one. We'll have data for you for that. PBIS support for all buildings, that professional development, so more information on that. Social workers, guidance, a community coordinator, more interventions like social workers to deal with trauma, and more staff support, and a drug counselor, which would go under probably the social worker area, but that substance misuse needs. Anything else people are thinking of? So this will be really good to guide us as we talk through with you what is being proposed, how does that reflect what you're asking for and what you're going to see. And then, then you're going to have to wrestle with how do we do everything we want with the funding. Okay. So thank you for that. That was very helpful. We'll collect these, and I'll type them up and get them so we have them, all right? So thank you for engaging in that. That's really, really good work.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to business, the new Edward Little High School fundraising name rights. I'll give you just a second. I'm here for you.
Sorry, Karen, can I interject some late breaking news that does tie into the budget discussion? I just saw tonight that both of the revolving renovation projects that we submitted for have been approved at the full funding amount at the state level.
You want to remind the public?
It's very exciting.
That's awesome news. Yep.
It's very exciting news. We've been waiting a long time to hear. So one was the redesign of the front entrance at Auburn Middle School to improve safety. And the total loan approved was $190,000. So just a reminder, about 60% of that is forgiven, and the other 40% we pay back interest-free over 10 years. So that's about $7,600 in next year's budget to get that project done. Okay. And then the Franklin elevator replacement and bathroom redesigns was approved, a loan of $1 million. So we'll pay back $400,000 of that, plus I think another 200,000 that we'll probably need to do through CIP to cover that total project, through the capital improvement bonding that we'll be bringing to you next month. So very exciting news.
Thank you.
The next step will be we'll take it to City Council. There'll have to be a public hearing, and ultimately they'll vote to move ahead with that. So there's a lot of discussion to come, but I just wanted to share that with you.
Great, thank you, Adam. Thank you for jumping in there. Okay, next item, business, the fundraising name rights for the new Edward Little High School. School committee will be voting on the naming rights levels and amounts as the building committee fundraising subcommittee starts to build out information for the public.
Right, so this, you're not approving this paper, and, we're going to work this, but what we had a discussion at the building committee level is really starting with visionary level, diamond level, platinum, gold, silver, bronze as our main focus right now, and then putting in the more naming rights opportunity later, so that we don't have people hurry to get an auditorium seat when we're really looking for that large donation on the naming rights. So really what I'm asking you is to kind of say, yes, the fundraising committee, keep moving forward with what you're doing. So I'll explain some, is the things underneath. We looked for other guidance from other school districts, Sanford being one, Mount Ararat. What are they doing around naming rights? And so that's a lot of where this language comes from. The signage for 25 years, we had a big discussion on they shouldn't be lifetime, because in 25 years going back and getting recommitments or looking for a change in those naming rights. But we thought even $1 million for 25 years to have your name on probably going to be the state-of-the-art performing arts center in the state of Maine is pretty special. So what we're doing, our plan is once you kind of move us forward and say, yeah, you know what, keep going, like the titles, like the amounts, like what you're doing, we're going to try to start building this out on a website so that somebody can click on performing arts and see those new drawings that we have, or they click on the athletic stadium and we can at least show what Harriman has given us so far. Same with the gym. Kind of giving people a look at, well, what am I investing in? And those will have to go, this is going to be over, it won't be done tomorrow, I can tell you. This will be a couple months. And then having an application form so that if I do want to do $50,000, I fill out an application that tells you how I'm thinking of donating that $50,000. It will also have in there some of the criteria around those guiding principles. You need to be in good standing with the community. You need to be following our policy around wellness. So things that are important to us, so people know right up front that we may not, you may not have those naming rights if you don't fall into some of these parameters. And so as those applications come in, the subcommittee will look at those applications and use those guidance and share that with the building committee. So there's work obviously to be done. I do want to tell you that Pat Gucci and Bonnie Hayes have jumped right into fundraising as their role on the building committee, subcommittee. They were gung-ho. We had a meeting today to go over some things. They're excited about getting a packet together as they go, as we look for asks. They are going to be reaching out to folks to be on the subcommittee. 2 people, 3 people can't do the work. Karen and I have talked about how do we make a transition plan with me leaving to see what might need to be supported for that. So I think it's really exciting to have those 2 people who are highly committed to the project taking this on and really having excitement there. That's what we need. And so a lot of work going on about the fundraising, and this is the first step. Is we didn't want to move forward without school committee knowing what we're doing. This is keeping you in the loop. And so I'm really just looking for support. Like what I see, keep going forward, and we'll be checking in with you periodically about what's been built out, what it looks like, and so forth. There's your information.
All right, so in order to move into discussion, we should bring this to motion. And so can I have a motion to support the naming rights document concept?
So moved.
Okay, I'll take Brian Belknap. Second,
Second.
Pam Hart.
Discussion?
Okay, yeah, sorry.
were
I
right. No,
just-
you
sorry.
had it.
No,
You
no.
had it.
Something else just popped into my head, so sorry, so sorry. Okay, let's bring it to public discussion. Seeing none, let's bring it to the school committee for discussion.
So, of course, I like the amounts that, the only issue I have with this is the naming rights for 25 years. And my reasoning behind that is, once you've named a complex, a name, that name's going to stick. Edward Little gave us land. We would never think of calling it Auburn High School. And he gave us land. He didn't give us $1 million. He gave us land, but we will always be Edward Little. And even if we were to change that to Auburn High School, it'll still be Edward Little. So if someone is to donate $1 million and Mr. Smith donates $1 million and it's the Smith Performing Arts Center and Complex, and, Mr. Jones comes 25 years from now and donates $1 million and changes it to Jones, it'll always be Smith. And so I don't really think it's fair to the next person who is going to be giving us money, just like the Sears Tower, for instance. We all know it as the Sears Tower. If I said, oh, I went to visit the Willis Tower, you'd be like, well, where's that? And, some people may know, oh, it's the Sears Tower, but that's what we know it as. So I really think that if you're going to ask someone to donate $1 million, that name should stay on the building. That's just and also, I know that we discussed that, 25 years from now, come back and if someone wants to give us more money or if the family wants to give us more money, but where would that money go 25 years from now?
It'd go towards your taxes.
Okay.
It would offset your taxes.
I just think
and
25 years is not a long time either.
And, because you have to consider, if you're going to do forevermore, would you do that for all the labs too, for 25,000? So I think you could differentiate if you, this is open to you all. I don't have any ownership on it. If you think the $1 million and the 500 and the 2, those levels should be lifetime, then that's what you decide. If you feel the others, I think we could put it there, in 25 years, we revisit it. Right now you're committing to 25 years. You guys have to decide. I think that was the discussion is it forevermore? Because that building will probably be in function for 50 years, let's say, 50, 60 years.
Hopefully more than that.
Well, you never know in these days. But let's say even 60 years, that's what you have to say. There will be things in there that if, God forbid, somebody's name is on there and then they do something criminal, we will have to revisit it and have to talk to that person.
I understand that, but
I know you do.
I just feel like, and even, because I've thought about it, 100 years, because at least you've got a couple generations
While you're
there, you know what I
alive.
mean?
Yeah.
Yes, and yeah. But also, I just think that no matter what, it'll always be the first name.
Whatever we
Just
name
like Edward Little. We're never going to change Edward Little. It'll always be Edward Little. We're never going to be, even if someone donated $20 million and they called it the Hart House, High School, it would always be Edward Little.
Well, you might do it, though.
Right, yeah.
If there's anybody out there, we will take the 20 million.
Yes. Anybody out there has 20 million, we'll take it.
Any other thoughts on
I'm
this?
just curious
Dave?
if you have any potential donors lined up for any of these.
We have $250,000 put towards the auditorium. I think there's flexibility there, though. If somebody wants their name on it and they want to do the $1 million, they do the $1 million. But the person who put, Ray Stevens, who said he would sponsor 250, he's hoping there'll be 3 other families to help support the $1 million. But I think he'd be flexible on what he may do. I haven't talked to him about that, but he wanted to take a lead to help support the school because he was a graduate. But I think we're going to have to talk that through, to be honest with you.
Done discussions, take it to a vote. All those in favor to support the naming rights document concept?
Can I just back up? Okay, so we're voting to have it exactly as this is?
The 25 years, or do you want to remove the 25 years?
Do you want any further discussion?
I'd like to remove the 25 years.
Do you want to remove the 25 years off the $1 million?
I really think it's,
The only problem I have with that is I've been in locations, Owen Stadium, University of Oklahoma, Owen Stadium. He donated $5 million to build the stadium. E.K. Gaylord donated $250 million. It's called E.K. Gaylord Stadium now. So,
And you still call it that, or do you call it the other one?
no, it's called Gaylord Stadium. Believe me, it's called
Right, so
Gaylord
that's-
Stadium. So,
So,
So I guess it's the lingo. At this point, it almost seems, let's sort of take it level by level then. So at this point, let's take it level by level. So, and we'll do a thumbs up, thumbs down. So when we're looking at this document, thinking of visionary level, how many of you support 25 years? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Or do you
Yes.
have another question
Just
on it?
another question.
Yep.
It might be good to have a caveat at the $1 million level. If I'm donating if I'm willing to donate $1 million, I should probably get to pick what I want. You know, maybe it's I want to donate $1 million because I want my name on the athletic stadium. Right. I think it would be good if I'm donating $1 million. Maybe I'm not as associated with the art complex, but like I said, maybe I really want the stadium.
But the stadium.
So it might be nice to have that kind of as a, hey, if you're donating $1 million, you kind of get your first choice, or you get to choose.
I like
that's a good
that.
idea. I like that, too. Because $1 million is a lot of money.
I mean, the issue's going to be, I'll play devil with you,
Yeah, go ahead.
is you say the first $1 million, but somebody says, I'm willing to do 500 for the athletic. Are we holding out for the 1 million for the athletic?
No, I think if somebody says, hey, I want to do
But-
$500,000 and I want the athletic field, I think
you're going to have to say whatever's still available.
whatever's still available, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
I think you're going to have to do that because.
If everything's
it's
available
first
and I
come,
want to
first
donate $1
serve.
million, I
First
get
If somebody's already given
Sure.
500,000, we're not going to kick them out for $1 million.
Well, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Okay.
No, we're
That's
not.
what I want to say. Okay.
That's what I was
We're
going to
not
say, is I
denying.
think there's going to be a first come, first serve element to it.
To all of
So
this.
if you come to the table with $1 million and nothing's taken, have at it.
Put your
Yeah,
name
first
on
come,
whatever
first
you
serve.
want.
Yeah.
Start checking off the list. But at some
give you the
point, when
tennis courts
things
for a
go,
million.
when things start going, then your choices are going to be more limited.
But people have been asking, when will the naming rights come out? Because there are people waiting to see. We have a couple people who've said we're waiting to see what the levels are, because we intend to do one of the naming. So
I hope I win the lottery between now and
that's
then.
why we're trying to get something out, but I think you're right. We can definitely make that, if you're $1 million,
first come, first
or
served, that
whatever's
has to be.
available. Yeah, okay. I hear you.
Okay.
Would you consider changing it?
It would be similar to.
75 to like 100 years? Or 50 years? Like
Well,
just a
the
lifetime?
building will probably last
Like a lifetime.
65 years.
I don't know. I'm just, am I the only one who has an issue with that?
So there's no naming the high school?
No.
No, it's Edward
No,
Little High
that's
School.
Edward
Okay.
Little.
We're not opening that
We are
can of
not
worms.
going that. That's not open for discussion.
Not even for
That is
$150
not
million?
No, no.
Is there anyone out there?
I will pick the gavel up
there's
and bang it
$100
on
million
that
Hey,
one.
we'll negotiate anything, we'll see.
No, no. Okay, so how do you want the subcommittee to now proceed? They've given us a document in front of us, and I had originally asked, do we go line by line as far as the 25 years? Are people married to the 25 years, not married to the 25 years?
I'm not,
Hi, Brian.
I'm not necessarily
You
married to it.
divorced.
I'm not necessarily married to it, but again, it might be nice to have a tiered approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're donating $1 million, you might get more time than if you donate 50,000.
Yeah.
You're getting a bigger
You're getting
You're getting a
yeah.
bigger
Right.
exposure. Yeah.
So it might be nice to have more of a tiered, instead of 25 across the board, it might give people more of an incentive if, hey, the $1 million is 50,
So give them 30 years.
30, whatever that.
So we're
We
redrafting
took
the
it- yeah,
proposal.
that's fine.
So at this point, we're asking for a redrafting of the proposal. Is that what I'm hearing based on some of the conversation that's happening here tonight? We're asking.
Well, how about we do this for right now? We take this off the plate altogether while we work out some other things,
Okay,
okay?
yep.
And then when we come back with what we're exactly doing, I don't hear you clamoring that you don't mind 25,000 being only 25 years. Is that what I'm hearing? You're kind of, the big guns should have more time, is what I'm hearing, right?
That's
Okay.
what
More
I'm-
money, more time.
That's what I'm hearing.
So why don't we just, we'll look at it?
Want a motion to table for right now?
Well, if you table right now, okay, that's fine. Yes, we can table.
No, I don't,
That's fine. Nope.
I wouldn't recommend tabling it, because I
can
think
table.
getting this out
It
there
won't be till
sooner
the
the
first
better.
week of March.
Yeah, I think getting this out there sooner.
When does the building committee meet next?
Well, the subcommittee can meet whenever. But I'm not married. I don't think the time frame has to be on here, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is if an application comes in, I think it's part of the negotiations. We could say, we start with, we're looking at a 50-year, 20, we can negotiate that. Does that make sense? So
So if
it
someone
doesn't
came
need to be a
you-
factor, is what I'm saying.
If someone came to you and said, I have $1 million, but I want this naming right for
A life.
40 years.
Exactly, a lifetime, then let's negotiate it. So we could
Okay.
put name rights on complex signage, number of years will be negotiated.
Negotiated.
be determined.
Okay,
I don't know. I'm trying to be,
That's true.
I'm trying to be flexible.
right.
Yeah.
So right now, we do have a motion to support the naming rights document concept. So right now, there's a concept, we're not actually
We do need to get it
voting
out
on the
there.
particulars, just the concepts, and we've given our feedback around that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the naming rights stuff off, like Sanford didn't have that,
Okay.
but Topsom did. So we
Okay.
could check in with Sanford, do you have a limitation on it? So we could do that.
Okay.
So we'll do some more checking in, and see what they had.
Okay.
Because I think it was Topsom that had the cutoff.
At least one of them did have a.
Yeah, it was Topsom, so, Mount Ararat. So we'll go back, because it could be, it's in kind of a, it will go 25 to, it's willing to be negotiated, something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to support the
something like
naming rights document concept. There was a second, so at this time, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, motion passes.
Thank you, and thank you for the feedback, that was good.
All right, moving on, subcommittee information and reports. So let's go subcommittee by subcommittee, and I'm following the agenda, and we'll just simply be going straight down. Finance Committee, I don't believe you've met since nothing to report. City Council update.
We're in the same process that you are at this point. We're starting to look at the budget, look to see where, I figured I had a loud mouth, I didn't figure. We're in the same process that we are right now, looking at the budget and seeing what's possible, and we're going to be working into it as we go along. So as we have put up there, we've not got to that stage yet, but we will shortly, so.
All right, great. Curriculum Subcommittee, we have not met yet. Community Learning Center, Mr. Simpson.
I did. I went there yesterday. I was invited to a meeting and with really nice people. It sounds like a really great program. What's on their front burner right now is they have to submit an RFP for funding for the next year, so that's where their focus is. Because it sounds as if they don't get this grant money, they go away. So that focus, but they're serving the number of kids they need to serve, or they said that they would serve. They're planning a health fair this spring at AMS and talent showcase, so I'm anxious to learn more.
Okay, great. Okay, the new Edward Little High School Building Committee met last week. They were presented with the same slideshow that Harriman came and presented to us on January 22nd. A lot of the same information was shared with them. It was really interesting to hear some of the research that went into the making of some of the decisions. And the fundraising subcommittee presented their proposal that you heard earlier tonight. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I think Pam is going to report out on that.
Yep, so we've met twice now, and the last time we met, Virginia and Laura went over the phases 1 and 2 of, and how they will proceed. Virginia and Laura also met with ELHS as professional development, and their approach was very well received. Of course, their big concern was consistency and continuation, which is the ultimate goal. We want to also make parents very well aware that parental consent was a big thing we discussed, and it will be absolute before any child volunteers to be involved in this discussion. We also have had some community members around the table as well, with backgrounds that reflect experience with diversity, inclusion, and equity, which has brought up some great conversations. So we do, it's not a forum, it's more of a small smallish group, but, of discussion, but we welcome anyone who would like to join the conversation. Next meeting is going to be on Thursday, the 13th, at 6 o'clock right here. So right now, we're just kind of trying to figure out how it's going to happen, and their approach is very organic. It's very, they want to try to communicate to as many people as they can, but in small groups that people feel safe in communicating. And Virginia, who is from this community and has a lot of contacts within the community, is going to be reaching out to a lot of people so that we can kind of use our own community to help us.
So
What
can
time is
anybody
that?
from the community go to that?
Yes, but it's not a forum or a task force. It's just kind of a community, just to see what's going on, and if you have any ideas or any ways of, approaching this.
Said it was February 13th.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yep.
Hearing
Here.
chamber councils. Okay. All right, moving on, superintendent search. So we have moved on from the conversation that we had when MSMA came and joined us. Letters have been drafted regarding participation in community forums. The dates, times, and locations for those are going to be sent out, as well as links to surveys that MSMA has provided. The interview committee information is also in the letters, how people can join some of those interview committee, what the process is for them, submitting a letter of interest to Cheryl Cornelio right here at central office. And I'm in daily contact with MSMA, and you as a school committee will also receive a date to review those applications for people who want to be part of the interview committee. So right now, that's sort of where we're at right now with superintendent search. So we are following timelines really closely and making sure we're sticking really closely to those. Okay? All right, policy committee. The policy is met. Wellness committee.
Yes, we met today. We had Dawn LaValle from Playworks come and speak with us. Playworks is, I had never heard of Playworks, but other people in the community had, well, in our group. They're nonprofit leveraging the power of play at recess. They partner with different schools to change the culture around recess and not just putting kids outside in the tar parking lot, getting involved and making use of that time wisely so that it has positive impact in the classroom. So I thought that was very interesting. And then we had a long discussion about what our recesses look like. We did some activities. I got to meet Chris, a new school nutrition director, and talk to him about his new great ideas within the cafeteria in the schools. We had some updates from Let's Go. We talked about which schools are doing 5210. And talked about the on-life registration with staff, and talked a little bit about celebration versus reward when it comes to food. So in the classroom, and just educating parents, teachers, students, and what goes along with that. It was a good meeting. There was the biggest turnout we've ever had, so. So that was good.
That's wonderful. Awesome. Okay, how about audit subcommittee? Have you met?
No.
Okay. Transportation appeals?
No, nothing yet.
Not yet. Okay. Share Center. I know Rose, you went to Share Center.
Yeah, we went on Monday, and I met with Lisa Rodriguez. Some big news that they got a $40,000 donation from the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation for a box truck that they had been looking for quite a while, which I think is going to make a significant impact for a lot of the uses that they would need it for various clean sweeps. We had talked about that for some fundraising for when they clean out like Bates and Bowdoin College, things that are donated and then subsequently have like a yard sale for. So that's one thing, big news. The other thing is on the 24th, there was a letter of interest submitted for the Martell project to be able to use part of the building as a maker's space. This is in Lewiston. So there's a lot going on with that. It's kind of some back and forth. We're looking at either partnering with Lewiston Housing Authority or something else that came up was Lewiston Rec. And kind of the idea of all of this is to build community. And I think partnering with the rec department, which is somebody that has a high need, is going to be a fantastic asset. The rec department wants to get things like the kitchen going, a library, a book reading, like a lot of those community things to help build that. Let's see what else.
I can update on that. So she did put a letter of interest in with the rec department, and she heard today that there were 3 letters of interest put in. So right now, that is where our share center has a bulk of their supply materials. And so all 3 those folks who put them in have to do a presentation on Monday, I believe, Monday at City Council? Right. So at Lewiston City Council, all 3 will do presentations about the thoughts, so it's a fast turnaround. So I know Lisa's already reached out to the Lewiston Rec Department to say we need to have our presentation ready for Monday.
And she's putting like a ton of work in this.
Oh, yeah,
Like this woman
a worker.
lives and breathes Share Center.
Oh,
so
she does.
really want to thank her for all of her work.
Yeah.
Thank
good
you,
point.
Rose. Okay, negotiations?
Nope.
Nothing. Okay, parent advisory.
Yeah, we had a meeting and we got an overview of kind of what PBIS was from Mr. Bard and Mr. Griffin. Kind of talked about how they're implementing PBIS, went through the various levels. It was kind of a great open discussion. And then what they did is they kind of did a breakout into the various schools. And elementary could talk about what they're kind of implementing, AMS, EL, and so forth. So it was pretty good. I know that a lot of the feedback's being rolled up to Michelle and Sue. So it was a very productive meeting, sure.
So parent advisory, just to correct, just how parent advisory meets the last, is it the last Monday?
Typically.
Typically the last Monday.
This next time, we might have to be changing that because it's set for the joint city council meeting. So we hate to wait another whole month because there's pretty decent momentum.
Okay.
There were a lot of people there. It was really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been good turnout by the administrators, teachers, parents. It's been a
Great.
pretty good turnout. We filled the library.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you.
I just wanted to add something off of it, that the Washburn is, one of the leading forefront of this system with this RTI. And they're
I'm sorry, PBIS?
PBIS, yeah, but so they're
Alphabet soup, honey. It's alphabet soup.
yeah. So anyway, they are in year 3. And this program takes about 10 years to implement. So they're still looking at how they are going to do this different tiers of intervention or response to intervention, which is that RTI that I had discussed. So, yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
I have one
Oh,
more for you,
sorry.
Karen.
Yes.
That's not on here. We're going to need to add the technology.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's right.
So I do have an update on that.
Oh, we missed that
I
one.
wonder why I got missed.
Yep.
Oh, I know why.
So,
Okay.
so Peter and
I
I met
copied
last
and
week
pasted.
as kind of an introduction, just to
Yes.
kind of
Thank you,
have
Brian.
some basics to, to kind of talk technology.
Sorry about that, Brian.
No problem. So we kind of looked at technology, because technology is a very big category, obviously. So we kind of broke it into kind of 3 areas. There is the technology, we'll call it the physical technology. It's the laptops, the servers, it's that kind of concept. There's data services, which he owns, which is more like, when Katie's looking for data and pulling data, and it's that data services aspect. And then there's also the other aspect, which is kind of how are teachers, educators, how are they using technology? What works, what doesn't work? So we kind of had some brief conversations about each of those. One of the things I recommended to him, and then I sent an email to Michelle and Sue, was that we should tag team in the parent advisory group in order to elicit feedback, especially around what's working and what's not. And kind of, if we frame it up that way, we get some of the administrators, we get some of the teachers, we get some of the parents, and we can kind of see what's working, what's not, why is it working, maybe things are working great.
Smart
So we're
decision.
planning on either the next one or maybe in the future.
It'll probably
one of
be the
quick-
next one. That's why we
Yeah.
don't want to wait too long. But
Peter and I have kind of talked about kind of a monthly check-in right now. Of course, it's just him and I. So, but to kind of talk about, especially with some of the.
Well, maybe at the parent advisory, there might be some parents that want to join the
Absolutely, that's-
About to
subcommittee.
say you may want to invite a parent or two.
Yep,
or
absolutely. And I think
three.
that's kind of the start of what the
Yeah.
committee looks like
That would
and
be
how it's
good.
shaped up. And
Please ask them to join the conversation.
absolutely.
Yep, okay, great. Any other committees? Yes, Michelle?
I just wanted to go back to Share Center because they did receive a pretty exciting award and recognition. I don't know if she talked about it. Maine Environmental Education Association recognized them and at their annual dinner, and just a great, wonderful recognition for the great program and the work that they do. So we're very proud of them, and I'm very pleased that they were recognized.
Thank you for adding that.
Tying back into the Share Center, 2 seconds,
Yeah.
I just remembered. They are looking, and we kind of came up with this, I started pushing for it, but having a simpler checkout system for it instead of all the transcribing the paper sheets, so that buildings can get their, and accounts can get their quick data, that we need to try to work some sort of scanner system or something that can be automatic, so it's easy to pull an on-demand report to see how valuable these resources are for different accounts.
Great, okay. Next on the agenda is upcoming meetings. Right now, we have a placeholder for February 12th at 6 PM, a workshop for school. That one is for the superintendent search. I will let you know, right now, that one is as a placeholder. That meeting may or may not need to take place. You will be notified of that very quickly, and actually, you'll notice if it is in your onboarding packet when you receive the agenda on Friday, meeting is still on. If it is no longer on.
Won't get an agenda.
Oh, that's right, you won't get an agenda.
I need to know by Friday whether you want it.
You will know. Yeah, if you get nothing, there's no meeting. No, I will reach out and let you know. I will reach out and let you know based on a meeting tomorrow. So it's really no point in meeting if we don't have anything new to sort of bring up to the table. You know about the 24th and 26th, so those are upcoming meetings. At this point on the agenda is future items to be added to the agenda or request for information. Does anyone have anything they would like to add to future agenda items? Any requests for information? If you think of something after this meeting, please email myself or Katie. All right, executive session not needed. So at this point, can I have a motion to move to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
A move
Second.
from Velma. Thank you. Seconded by Pam Hart. All those in favor?
Yay.
None opposed. Thank you all.
I know.